Good evening and welcome all of you to the class. Hi Rupa, good evening and welcome to the class. Rupa, can you tell me whether my audio is clear? Whether I am audible and whether you are able to see the slide transitions on screen? I hope slide transitions on screen is fine and you all are able to hear me well. Okay, so I think I am audible because I am able to hear myself. Okay, yes, so we will just wait for 1 minute, okay, so that more people can join us and we will begin our class. Again, today it will be a very interesting class because today what I have done is that in Rajya Sabha TV, the policy watch and big picture, multiple times some article comes on foreign policy, okay, and when an article comes on foreign policy, the article is fragmented. Fine, in some lecture there will be some part of articles and in other lecture there will be other part of articles. So in this way there is a fragmented approach. If you will go through all RSTV debates, in 5 to 6 videos you will be getting lot of components regarding foreign policy, okay, the contours of foreign policy, the way it is changing or it has changed after the NDA government in 2014. So these are the things which were there. So what I thought, to make your work easy, I went through all of them and I thought to bring a single consolidated video which will be covering the entire India's foreign policy from 2014 to 2019. Then what all are the landmark events that have been there, the achievements and the challenges which lies ahead, and now why it is important, why we are discussing it right now. This we will be discussing in the further slide through multiple linkages, okay. So once again I welcome all of you to the class and you all can send me a hi before we begin the class. Just give me 1 minute, sometimes the comments is okay. Hi Pallavi, how are you? Good evening and welcome to the class. Megha, how are you? Good evening, welcome to the class. Fine, so now this class is more important to strengthen your PSIR, political science and international relations, not political science but international relations part. Fine, because this will be giving you a overall picture and there are many things which we will be discussing which you will not come across in general topics, okay. Jitesh, good evening, welcome to the class. I hope you all are doing good, okay. So now this is regarding me, that I have cleared my CSE mains 2019 in the first attempt and I have also cleared CAPF written exam in first attempt and I am a BTech degree holder in Computer Science and Engineering, BIT Sandri Dhanbad, Jharkhand, okay. And yes Jitesh, I am fine, I hope you are also doing good, okay. So the people who are new, so this slide is for them. So the people who are already there with me from last few classes, I would request you to bear with me for 1 or 2 minutes, okay. So this is for the newcomers who are joining my class for the first time, okay. Hi Pritam, how are you? Good evening and welcome to the class. So Pritam, I think this is your first class, isn't it? So this is for the people who are joining me for the first time, okay. So that why you should attend my classes. So first of all, I have the most recent experience of the dynamic nature of UPSC CSE exam, since I appeared for mains in 2019 and I'm going to appear for interview in July, okay. And whatever courses or whatever topics I bring to all of you, these are highly relevant, okay, and they will be bearing a high return on investment. So these are the two parameters which I try to keep in mind in order to bring any course or any topic, okay. Then the points which we will be discussing on any of the relevant context, they will be very clear, concise, crisp and to the point explanation. Fine, so this has always been my target right from the first video, because I firmly believe that we should not waste time of anyone, neither you nor mine, okay. Then there is a 360-degree approach for dealing with any topic, that is we try to probe from a holistic angle any topic in all my classes. So these are some unique things which you will be getting, and I try to establish an interlink and a multi-dimensional approach for any of the topics, okay. And the learners who are there, who are associated with me from the first day, they might be well experiencing these things, and my ultimate target is to develop these three qualities in my learners. Fine, that is, the first is analytical ability, the second is critical thinking and an in-depth understanding. Fine, and these three are something which I call mains magic bullet, because once any candidate, if he or she is able to develop these three qualities, then no one can stop them from clearing mains exam by getting very good marks. Okay. And lastly, I believe that prelims and mains cannot be prepared in silos. Many candidates, they think that prelims and mains needs a separate preparation or strategy, but no, any topic can be discussed from both prelims and mains perspective, like the video which we are discussing today. Fine. Again, you will find that I have both prelims based question and mains based question on the topic. Fine. Then finally you can watch the video and you can refer the notes, finally feel the difference. Okay. So the people who have joined me for the first time, this is the Telegram channel, that is Road to Civils. Okay. You can join this channel and you will be getting access to all the PDFs plus whatever courses I am bringing in. Okay. On Unacademy YouTube channel, you will be getting the notification. Fine. Then you can follow me on my Unacademy profile, that is @Sumit1920. In future, wherever I will be bringing courses on Plus or on Unacademy free platform, you will be notified. Then if you have any specific query regarding your UPSC preparation, you can ask me on my email ID as thakur1920@gmail.com, and we will be having our next class on 26th, that is Friday at 7 p.m. Okay. So that's all. Now I had made a video on how to maximize our GS mains score with minimum but directed efforts. Okay. And in this regard, we launched the special course, that is Rajya Sabha TV, the big picture debate analysis. Fine. And the only purpose to bring in this course was that in Rajya Sabha TV, the panelists, fine, the panelists are field experts. Okay. They can be a Supreme Court judge, the retired CJI, or the advocate, or they can be a secretary to the government of India, or environmentalists. Fine. So all of them are expert in their field, and whenever they debate on any topic, they give us certain points which is out of the box and which has a relevance from their field. So if we quote those points in our answers, it will differentiate our answer with other competitors' answer. That is the reason why we deal with the Rajya Sabha TV big picture debate analysis. Okay. Hi Sushil, how are you? Good evening and welcome to the class. Okay. So now the promo part, that is, it will take another 3 minutes, I think, not more than that, so please bear with me. So you all might be aware by now that there is a summit to transform your UPSC preparation on 26th, 27th and 28th of June 2020. And the best thing is that there will be more than 56 speakers and more than 50 talks and panel discussions. And there will be around 29 of hands-on workshops on various topics related to UPSC civils preparation. Fine. And these are some of the guests who will be there: Dr. Shashi Tharoor, Kiran Bedi ma'am, Kapil Dev sir, Honorable Pranav Mukherjee, President of India earlier, then Jairam Ramesh sir and Rajkumar Rao. Apart from them, some of the people who are there who belong to our own field which we aspire for, that is UPSC. So we will be having our ex-UPSC chairman DP Agrawal sir, then Armstrong Pame sir. Most of you might be aware about him. He had developed a People's Road in Manipur. Okay. Similarly, we are having Prasad Nair sir, Rupa ma'am, Sanjukta ma'am, okay, Vipul Pandey sir, Chavi Rajawat ma'am and Rujuta Duvekar ma'am. Fine. So you will be getting a chance to interact with all of them and learn from their experiences, the way they handled the obstacles which came while preparing, and even after that when they are in the service, how they are handling the service and the field works. Fine. So these are some other details of the summit. That is, there will be a series on why UPSC, then what about preparation journey, how to prepare most effectively and without getting tired. Third, what role Unacademy will play in your UPSC journey as a partner. And fourth will be how to become a leader in whatever we do. And this leadership is one of the quality which is sought in each and every civil servant, because whatever post we will be handling, we need to play a leadership role, a decisive role, be it the role of a collector or an SP or any such post. Then what has to be done once you fail? If maybe that can be a prelims attempt or mains or interview, how to bounce back with more vigor and more zeal. Fine. Then there will be workshops and discussions on multiple topics. Okay, so that was all regarding the summit. Then the last 1 minute part, 3 mega batches have already commenced on 22nd of June. Okay, and these are the details. There is a bilingual GS batch course, a Hindi GS batch course and a English GS batch course. All already began from 22nd of June. You can join any of them. Okay, and you can apply my promo code, that is SumitYT10, to get flat 10% discount on all your Unacademy Plus subscription. Okay, SumitYT10, this is the code. Fine. Then now let us begin our class. This is the class number 17 on our Rajya Sabha TV, the big picture debate analysis. So finally, now we will be discussing, I told you in the beginning, 2014 to 2019, what have been the contours of India's foreign policy, how it has changed, okay, and what are some of the landmark events, the achievements and the challenges. Why we, do you think that we need a rethinking on our foreign policy to accommodate the dynamism which India is facing? This is the question which I had asked in the poster. Fine. So I want you people to give me an answer. Fine. That is, do you think that the dynamism which is being brought because of be it the changing power spheres, or the geographical terrains, or the nature of warfare, all these things are changing, and all these things are linked to the way a country conducts its foreign policy. Fine. So that is why I want to know from you people, do you think that we need to have a rethink and make our foreign policy more accommodative to the dynamism which is being involved? Fine. So give me answer in the comment section. So Jitesh is asking that, will you come up with any course in Plus? Yes, Jitesh, I will do it, but right now, after I have one more announcement to do, which I will be doing today at the end of the class. Okay, and after that I will definitely come on Plus as well. Fine. Right now I am not at my proper place, therefore I am having some problem with internet, and therefore I am not coming on Plus. Okay, so Jitesh is telling that, yes sir, we have been so soft with China. Okay, so Jitesh has dealt with one angle. Now this slide is very, very important and very, very interesting. Fine. I want all of you to participate and comment, because you see, today I have tried to give you as wide linkage as possible, because IR is such a beautiful arena where we need to dig, where we need to analyze, internalize and connect. That is the only keyword to get very good marks in IR. So you can see there are multiple points which I have mentioned, that is under relevant context and interlinkages. Now I want you all to participate. I will be asking question on all of these, and I want each of you to answer. Fine. So before that, mapping it with syllabus, India and its neighborhood relations, we can bring this topic under that subhead. Then it can also be put in bilateral, regional and global groupings. Okay, so that was the syllabus mapping part as per our ritual. Now let us come to the pointers. So in the context part, I have mentioned some recent happenings which we need to take in account when we talk about the dynamism involved in India's foreign policy and the need for realignment or a rethink. So one dimension which was touched by Jitesh is that, sir, we have been very soft with China. So that is being covered in this, that is the aggressive China. Okay, and in this there is a border issue and debt trap diplomacy. Okay, so now first of all we will discuss it later. Now the first thing is that COVID-19 pandemic and its impact on IR. If you remember, we have discussed this in our earlier class. The people who are consistent with me from the first day, you might be aware that we have discussed this COVID-19 pandemic and how it will be impacting IR. So now give me one example for this, one or two example. Okay, in the comment section, give me one or two example that how foreign policy or diplomacy is changing post-COVID. Pre-COVID, post-COVID, how diplomacy is changing, or how do you think it will change? That is more important. Okay, tell me in the comment section. Then the second part, the second interlinkage which we need is that China is being very aggressive nowadays. Fine, and it is trying to become a new hegemon in our Asian region. Fine, so this is a prominent issue, and in this we have a border issue which is daily in news. Okay, that is the Galwan Valley conflict and the Pangong Tso region occupation by, not occupation I would say, rather the claim or the conflict in the border area. And in this context we have come across the word salami slicing. So tell me, what is the meaning of this word salami slicing? And this is a very, very important keyword. Okay, I will mark it with a star so that you can make a note of it. Fine, salami slicing. Tell me what is the meaning of salami slicing. Then debt trap diplomacy. This is again a step by China tell me what is the meaning of debt trap diplomacy. Fine. So today's class I have kept deliberately very interactive, because we will discuss more, we will get more points from you people, and we will try to build upon those points rather than mentioning each and everything in slide. Fine. So because I want that some advantages should be there for the people who are watching me live or who are watching the video. If everything will be in PDF, then people will not feel like coming to the class. So that is the reason. Fine. So now debt trap diplomacy, you need to tell me what is the meaning. And second thing is that in India's case, there is again an economic pressure on India. Fine. That is, even if we want to boycott Chinese, we are not being able to do so. Why? Because there are multiple reasons. I want you people to quote some of the reasons in India's context. Okay, because you might be aware that nowadays again this word is in vogue, that ki bhai boycott Chinese. But do you think that it is possible? Okay, it can be a thing that gradually over a period of time, for example 5 years, 10 years down the line, we might be able to eliminate significantly the import of Chinese goods, okay, or the impact of Chinese investments on the Indian markets. But right now, all of a sudden, do you think we will be able to do that? If not, what are some of the reasons? Give me some examples in India's context. Okay, the economic trap or the economic subjugation which China is doing on India, and what are the forms through which it is doing. Fine, tell me the example for that. So now I am getting some comments, I'll read them. And I again request all the people who are watching, please participate in these discussions. This will try to develop your own analytical ability. Okay. So Jitesh has told that looking up with current situation, I think foreign policy should be according to the intention of the other side, and defense preparedness based on capacity of the other side. Okay. So Jitesh is telling that defense preparedness must be based on the capacity of the other side. Okay, Jitesh, that is good. But do you think that in order to do that, we will also have to look into our own challenges, isn't it? For example, the budgetary challenges, or the other challenges in terms of resources, in terms of infrastructure, etc. Fine. Then debt trap, Jitesh has given the answer as big loans unable to repay debt. Fine, that is correct. Then what happens after that, Jitesh? Like if China has given loan to Sri Lanka, fine, or to Nepal, then they are not able to pay. Then what happens? Tell me. Then Ram has told that medical diplomacy is being played by India. Yes, Ram, that is very correct. Medical diplomacy is being played by India. That is, that is more, a sort of exercise of soft power by India. Fine. Then gradual reduction in the size of something by small activities. Okay, gradual reduction in the size of something by small activities. Okay, fine. This answer by Ram Kishore is also good. Like it's correct. Then Megha has given the answer as salami slicing in context of border issue is trying to reduce size of area by taking small incremental steps. Yes, Megha, you are very correct. So both Ram and Megha are correct, and you all have tried to give the answer to the same question from different dimensions, but both of you are correct. Okay. Then Jitesh is telling leasing of land. Okay, leasing of land. Then isn't it that because of the debt trap, then the country where investment was done, they have to part away with their main strategic resources to the country which has given the loan. And in this way, gradually the country which is giving the loan, for example China, they are exercising the complete control, and they are furthering their own strategic interests through that particular country. That is the main disadvantage of debt trap diplomacy. Now one more question which I asked, which I have not still got the answer, that in India's context we cannot tell this, isn't it? अगर हम लोग इंडिया की context में बात करेंगे तो हम लोग ये नहीं बोल सकते हैं कि China is putting pressure on India through debt trap diplomacy. This is not valid. But in India there is some other form of politics, or there is some other form of diplomacy which China does. So, and that is through economy. So tell me what is that? Tell me, give me some examples. Fine, give me some instances, because I want you to quote similar things when you write an answer. Fine. Then the fourth is, you might be aware that ongoing there is a RIC trilateral meet, isn't it? So very easy question. You might tell me the countries which are there in RIC trilateral meet. So this meet is going on currently, isn't it? In Russia, in Moscow, our minister, that is Rajnath Singh, he has gone there to participate in the RIC trilateral meet. So this is again there. Then we discussed that day Nepal India map row, isn't it? This was another thing which we discussed. and this is again something where we need to rethink our foreign policy, that whether the big brother image which we are carrying, which we are carrying, or the people of Nepal, whether they are where they are thinking that patriotism is equal to anti-India sentiments. In Nepal, if you have anti-India sentiments, that means you are patriotic to your country Nepal. That is the problem. Every time we consider Nepal as our our friend, a very very best friend, where we have free visa regime, okay, or in borders are very very relaxed, but then they are not taking in that manner. Fine, so do we need to give it a rethink to our relation with Nepal, and what type of equations Nepal is trying to play with China? And Nepal, China together, they are trying to play their own card in order to further their own interests with India. So this is a very complex scenario, and we need to have a foreign policy where we can address both the concerns of Nepal and China in such a manner that they cannot pressurize India by colluding among themselves or collaborating among themselves. So that is the main point. Then okay, then again string of pearls is the example by Jitesh. Okay, that is good, Jitesh, that is a good example. Then RIC is Russia, India, China, given by Ram, answer, and then Mega has given the answer. Then Jitesh has told roti beti ka rishta. Yes, fine, that is okay, but still you might be witnessing that roti beti ka rishta is no more existing, isn't it? That is the problem. Then now Susil is giving the first comment, that is strategy used by China to trap developing countries to borrow money in much needed projects. So I think that is the answer to trap diplomacy given by Susil. Fine. Then Jitesh is telling that economic angle, investment in FDI, FPI. Yes, finally I got one answer from Jitesh. Okay, so now if you might be aware, I'll give you again a very important data. In India's context, you might be aware that the popular companies, okay, or they invest in startups, they become angel investors, Chinese, fine, and they are again investing in these companies shares, Paytm, then Big Basket, fine. So then in these startups or in these popular companies, Chinese have a huge investment. Okay, so this is one form, fine. Then the another form is that they are investing in startups. This I have already told. Finally, then the another thing is that they are supplying the intermediate goods. Okay, these intermediate goods, they are imported from China, and then they are they are worked upon, then they are made as a finished goods, and they are exported by India. So this is again a very very prominent area where Chinese are involved. So at every level of trade, Chinese are very very much involved in Indian trade market, in Indian business. Therefore it is not easy to find a quick substitute to China, or to bring in entire scenario as a make in India, fine. And you might be aware that even in our economic survey of last economic survey, the latest one, in that our economic advisor, he told us, he gave us the logo, that is assemble in India. Okay, he gave us the logo assemble in India. This assemble in India is again acceptability of a reality, fine. Assemble in India is acceptability of a reality. And what is that reality? The reality is that make in India is not entirely possible, fine. Make in India is not entirely possible, and even if it is possible, we need a lot of time for that, a lot of infra for that. And since that time doesn't comes, we will have to focus on this as well, that is assemble in India. And therefore again Chinese role comes into picture, fine. So these are some complex scenario, and it is not very easy to part away with the Chinese products or the Chinese goods. That is the main concern, and that is the reason why diplomacy has been linked to trade, fine. Then India Nepal Mapro, I told you. Now regarding these things, we need to create a new China policy, and this can only be created when we accept that yes, there has been a change, and we need to realign the manner in which we take Chinese, fine. That is like trying to resolve everything and trying to de-link trade or economy with diplomacy, fine. So these issues needs to be reworked. This is the opinion of a section of critics. That is the point. Then last interlinkage is digital diplomacy. Again very very important point. Give me some examples for this. Okay, give me some examples for digital diplomacy. So let me check whether you all are aware and alert with whatever is happening. And this is becoming more prominent because of post कोविड, ठीक है. और कोविड के बाद से या फिर कोविड से पहले, कोविड से पहले नहीं, कोविड और कोविड के बाद this digital diplomacy is gaining much currency. So give me the example of the same. Okay, now let me look into some comments. Okay, yes, Jitesh has given another example, that is Byju's. Yes, Jitesh, you are correct. Then we need to build our own ecosystem of supply chain management. Yes, that is very correct by Jitesh. Okay, hi Kiran, good evening and welcome to the class. Today you are a bit late. Fine, so no problem, you have not missed much, but these interlinkages we discussed, which is very important. Please go through it once the class is over. Okay, and this was the main slide, therefore we took some time for it. And the last question is mine. Give me some examples of digital diplomacy. Okay, now let us come into our core discussion, that is foreign policy and diplomacy. What is the difference between these two terms? Okay, foreign policy is a framework within which the government of a given country conducts its relations with the outside world in different formats. That is, it can be a bilateral, regional and multilateral or global. Fine. So now give me one examples for each. Give me an example for a bilateral grouping or an association, a regional association and a multilateral or global association. Fine. Give me one examples for each. These are very easy questions. I just want to refresh your knowledge. That's it. So foreign policy means overall objective, the way we, or for example if we take India. Fine. Okay, so Jitesh is asking that whether it is e-commerce. No, it is not e-commerce, Jitesh. Fine. Digital diplomacy is not e-commerce. Okay, so think differently. Give me some another response. Fine. Now again, as we were discussing that, like for example, let us take the example of India. Fine. If Indian government, when we were independent, then at that time we were following the principles of NAM. Okay? So NAM became the part of India's foreign policy, which means that we are setting a roadmap through which we will be conducting ourselves with other countries, and what will be the priorities of ours as a nation. That forms the part of foreign policy of any country, and there can be multiple levels of engagement in order to further this foreign policy. It is similarly, a corollary ये हो सकता है कि the way you treat people who come to you or who come to your house, or the way you treat when you meet your neighbors, or when you meet some other relatives or some other people somewhere in country, that is parallel to foreign policy. ठीक है. Now what about diplomacy? ठीक है. So diplomacy is a tool to further this foreign policy. This is a means through which this end which have been defined in foreign policy of a country that will be achieved. Fine. Again I am giving you I'll repeating you. Fine, that these two terms, that is foreign policy and diplomacy, they share a means and end relationship. Fine, give me 1 minute. Okay, so diplomacy will be a means through which the ends which have been mentioned in foreign policy, those will be achieved. So this is the main interlinkage between these two. Now let us look into diplomacy. So it is a profession. Fine, that is when you will be becoming Indian Foreign Service officers, IFS officers. So you will be called a diplomat. Okay, you will be called a diplomat, and that diplomacy is a profession. Fine. So then skill and art of managing countries' relations with rest of the world with a view to achieving the objectives of country's foreign policy. Isn't it the same thing I explained right now with this example and with the neighbor example, like our neighbor and our own house when someone will come. Fine. Then broadly, diplomacy can be political, economic or cultural, and ideally should work in tandem, which means that all these various aspects of diplomacy needs to go hand in hand. Fine, that is political diplomacy, economic diplomacy, cultural diplomacy, all needs to go together. Fine. So now I'll read some comments. So okay, Sweta, how are you? Good evening and welcome to the class. Sweta, I think you were not present in yesterday's class, so I was going through your doubt. If you remember, this is for the entire class, not only Sweta, but the doubt was that of Sweta's. Okay, in our Sunday's class of second ARC, she had actually asked me that whether there was some amendment to the give me just 1 minute. Okay, I will divert from the topic for 2 minutes because it is very important. Okay, so I was asked whether there is a amendment to the Whistleblowers Protection Act. Okay, so regarding that I want to just give you the answer that the Whistleblowers Protection Act, okay, this act was enacted in 2014. Fine. Now you can go back to your notes of Sunday's class of second ARC, okay, second ARC on RTI, and you can add there. Fine. This Witness Protection Act, Whistleblowers Protection Act was enacted in 2014, and there was an amendment bill in 2015. Okay, in 2015 there was an amendment bill. Fine, but this has not been turned into act till now. Fine. Now what was the major change? The major change was that in Whistleblowers Protection Act of 2014, fine, there was a clause that whatever is secret under Officials Secrets Act, okay, that will not be disclosed under this WPA. Fine, that is WPA will not override OS. WPA will be able to override OSA. Fine. So please pardon me. And this is the change which is there in 2015, the reversal. Okay. So in 2014, the provision is that Witness Protection Act, it can override Officials Secrets Act. Fine. It can override. ये जो provision है, this provision is in 2014 Act. Fine. But the 2015 amendment, the 2015 bill, which is not yet an act, fine, in this provision has been nullified. That is, Whistleblowers Protection Act cannot override the Officials Secrets Act. Fine. This is the most important difference which is there in the Act of 2014 and the amendment bill of 2015. So I hope now it is clear for Sweta and for all other people who are following me. Fine. So now let us come back to our core discussion. So then we discussed that diplomacy can be in all three spheres and they can go hand in hand. Fine. So now give me an example of our diplomacy with any one country where we are involved in all these three. Fine. Give me the example, and like for example, if country is X, then tell me the dimension for political diplomacy, the dimension for economic diplomacy, and the dimension for cultural diplomacy. This is my question. Tell me example with the country with which we are having all three policies in tandem. Okay. Then now I'll read some comments. Kiran has told that. Okay. Then Sweta has told WHO assembly in recent month. Okay. Yes, that is also correct. Then Kiran has told digital diplomacy. Yes, video conferences of External Affairs Ministry. Yes, that is very correct. That is something which I wanted to hear. So Kiran has given correct answer. Then Ram says that cyber attacks might be digital diplomacy. Okay, Ram, actually no, like even Jitesh and you were not able to comprehend what Kiran has told. That is correct. Okay, digital diplomacy means where we try to engage in dialogues or talks online. Fine, that is without any physical movement, isn't it? Like earlier, agar there was a dialogue scheduled with any country, then we used to have summits, that is physical summits, but now we are conducting virtual summits. For example, the G20 virtual conference or the SARC video conference, isn't it? You all are aware of this. That is why I am today's class, that is why very important, because I have designed it in a specific manner. That is, you all are already aware, we discussed about this, that is SARC conference on corona. So this is an example of digital diplomacy. Similarly, the answer given by Kiran, that is also correct. Okay. Then Jitesh is asking that building our own video calling apps in order to avoid privacy issue. So that was regarding what? Jitesh, can you tell me? Then Sushil has also given the correct answer. He has told that cyber, virtual or e-diplomacy. Yes, Sushil, you are absolutely correct. Fine. Then Kiran has told PM's address on video conference for G20. Perfect example. Okay, so Sweta, I think now your doubt is clear. Okay. Then Jitesh is telling that Nepal, USA, Bhutan. Very good, Jitesh. But I also asked you that you will have to mention one dimensions. Fine. For example, if you are giving me the example of USA, you need to tell me what is the political diplomacy involved, the economic diplomacy involved, and the cultural diplomacy involved when we talk about India-US relations. Fine. So this is the template in which you need to give me the answer. This applies for all the people. So you can give me the answer in the comment section. Now let us move ahead. Now, as a rule, the diplomacy is pursued through established diplomatic channels and mechanisms. That can be, dialogue. Okay, the dialogue mechanism or forum. We have the concept of forums, dialogues, establishments. Fine. So these are some of the established diplomatic channels. That is the official channels. Fine. And at times it can be pursued through backdoor channels as well, or through informal track 1.5 or track 2 mechanisms. So again, there is a question for you, and again I am telling you, today's class will be full of many questions, so please try to answer quickly. Okay, and you will again enjoy very much today's class. This is my guarantee. So now I will take a comment. Sweta has told cultural soft power USA. Okay, fine. So give me other examples. Then again there's a question. Tell me the difference between track 1, track 1.5. Okay, first let me rub this. Fine. So today will be a rapid fire type session. Fine. There will be a lot of questions involved, which will be very useful for all of you. Okay. Track 1 diplomacy is there. Track 1.5 diplomacy is there. Track 2 diplomacy is there. Give me 1 minute. Okay, 1, 1.5, 2 and 3. Okay. So tell me the difference between them. Fine. Tell me, let me check the extent or the level of knowledge which you all people bear in IR. Fine. I just want to check because I think this might be my second or third lecture on international relations. So I just giving you all a demo or a trailer of how beautifully we can read IR subjects. Okay. So give me the meaning of this. Track 1 diplomacy, track 1.5 diplomacy, track 2 diplomacy and track 3 diplomacy. Fine. So we discussed this. Now let us move ahead. This is in bold and this is in underline. Very important. Please mug it up anyhow. Fine. You can quote it in essay. You will get very good marks. Okay. And you can even quote it in GS2 and ethics paper. Fine. That is in foreign policy and diplomacy. There are no permanent friends or enemies but only permanent interests. I think the people who are having PSIR as their optional, they might, this might be the first sentence which they might have read when they have opened a book on diplomacy or a IR book. This might be the first thing which they have read. Fine, which means that कि there is no permanent friends or enemies. मतलब जब हमारा interest जैसा रहेगा उसके हिसाब से हम लोग दोस्त या दुश्मन बनाएंगे. This is the meaning of this particular line. Okay, because you might be aware that there was a time when we followed NAM. We were not aligning to either China, either USA or Russia. But now after that our stance changed. We aligned with Russia. Then again after few years our stance changed. We aligned with USA. And now we are aligning with both USA and Russia. So that is the example in the Indian context. That is, there is no permanent friend such as Russia or US or no permanent enemy such as Russia or US. They will be, we will be keeping our diplomatic channels with them or our relations with them as per our own interest. This is the example. Then second example is Russia and China convergence. Isn't it? Initially these two countries, they were at, इनके बीच में 36 का आंकड़ा चलता था, isn't it? But now they are again converging. Their interests are converging. Example is RIC trilateral. Trilateral is one example. SCO is another example. Fine. So this is again an example of which which justifies this statement. Fine. Then now let us look into another aspect about India's foreign policy. What are its main objectives? ठीक है. तो आज का जो हमारा क्लास है, our today's class is to give you overall very holistic understanding and picture of our foreign policy and the basic fundamental principles on which foreign policies are framed, and the way diplomacy is used to handle them. Fine. Then again I'll read a comment. So Jitesh has given the example Nepal cultural, USA economic. Okay, again Jitesh, what I had asked is that if you are taking example as India USA, fine, then you need to tell me 3 dimensions of same country. That is USA के साथ political diplomacy का example दीजिए, then economic diplomacy का example दीजिए, then cultural diplomacy का example दीजिए with India US. But you have given USA's economic, Bhutan's cultural. I told you that these 3 can exist even in tandem. So I want the example. Then Kiran has told that Bhutan shares economic in terms of aids, trade, political is Bhutan support in Doklam issue to India, cultural is exchange of Buddhism and neighborhood first. Perfect. Okay, so the way Kiran has given the example, similarly I want Jitesh to give me example for India USA. Okay, Kiran has given a very good example. Then Sweta has given the answer that track 2 is business engagements, track 1 is diplomats, track 1.5 is non-state actors. No. Fine, no problem Sweta. Actually you have given a very good try, but it is not in that manner. We will discuss it. Okay. Then the terms which you have used, Sweta, that is not correct. Fine, but the idea which you are trying to convey, that is correct. Fine. So okay, so Kiran has told okay, fine. So without reading, I told something and it is correct also. Kiran has told that yes sir, this was the first line of OP Gabo. Okay, great. Then fine. Now Megha has told that track 1 government officials and elites. Fine, perfect, very good. Now tell me Megha of track 1.5, track 2, track 3 in one line, not more than that. Okay, just give us the difference Megha, then we will discuss that. I have a slide for that as well. Very briefly we will discuss it because these are very important. Fine, this can be as a question in both prelims and mains, and this actually checks your level, your depth of the subject. Fine, so now let us move ahead. So main objective is to secure national interests and ensure inclusive development. So this is a keyword, please keep in mind. Fine, our main objective is to secure inclusive development and to secure our own national interests. Fine, I don't think I need to explain the word inclusive development. Fine, so the scope of national interest is fairly wide. In our case, it includes, for instance, securing our borders to protect territorial integrity, countering cross-border terrorism, energy security, food security, cyber security, creation of world-class infrastructure, non-discriminatory global trade practices, equitable global responsibility for the protection of environment, reform of institutions of global governance to reflect the contemporary realities, disarmament, regional stability, international peace, and so on. Now I just want you all to pause for 10 seconds and just imagine the width and depth of information which I have covered in this slide. Not depth but width. I have included almost everything, almost all the aspects, or all the at least important aspects of our foreign policy and IR as a subject, isn't it? That is, if you like, if I will start asking questions, then on every topic which is there in bold, that is why you might be observing that in this paragraph 70% text is bold. Why? Because each of them is a single keyword. Okay, and I have tried to sum up multiple things under different heads under one paragraph. Okay, that is, you can give me an example of where we are trying to pursue this territorial integrity. It can be India Pak, isn't it? It can be India China, isn't it? This is one example. Then where we are trying to collaborate for countering cross-border terrorism, what can be the example? The example can be nuclear security summit, isn't it? Nuclear security summit can be an example. Similarly, energy security, give me an example. Food security, give me an example. I will give you one example for this. Okay, earlier we had a diplomacy, that is PL 480 grains we used to import from US. Fine, so this was the example of food security. The interests of food security was being served with the help of the conduct of foreign policy and diplomacy. Fine, so again give me an example of cyber security. I think we have discussed this. There is a convention, give me the example. Okay, so give me the example for cyber security. So give me the example of countering cross-border terrorism. Energy security, cross-border terrorism, I have already given the example, that is nuclear security summit. Now you give me the example of energy security. So I will also read comments very fast, because then Megha has given that track 2 conversation at non-official level and track 3 at community level. Okay Megha, you are correct, no problem in that. Then you have given the right answer. But what about 1.5? Megha, you have missed 1.5, but Kiran has given the answer. Let's see. One is typically high level political and military. Yes Kiran, these two keywords are important. Okay Megha, you can substitute the word elite with military. Fine, elite, don't use the word elite, rather keep two keywords, military and political. Fine, done. Track 1, military, political. This is for all the people watching. 1.5, non-official actors resolve conflict. Okay, so this is not fully correct Kiran. Okay, this is not fully correct. 2 is the unofficial dialogue. 3 is the people to people or private individuals. Yes, 2 and 3 are correct answer by Kiran. Okay, we will discuss this after this slide. Now my question is that give me an example for energy security, the role of foreign policy in energy security. Give me one example. Similarly, give me an example for cyber security. Then there can be events like creation of a world-class infrastructure. For example, when Japan is giving us soft loans, that is, you might be aware of JICA, isn't it? Then you might also be aware that the DMRC, the Delhi Metro project, has been substantially funded by Japanese company or Japanese bank. Fine, Bank of Japan. So these are the examples where world-class infrastructure is being created with the help of diplomacy. With when we are bringing in investments from foreign countries through diplomatic bargaining, through foreign policy approach, then that will be coming under this head. Similarly, non-discriminatory global trade practices through the help of WTO, through the establishment of WTO. Okay, then equitable global responsibility for the protection of environment, that is the climate change deals. Fine, that is the climate like the Paris Pact, okay, the Paris Agreement, that is the example. Okay, then just give me 1 minute. Okay, now disarmament, regional stability and international peace. So again, in this we have various bodies, like we are part of, we are part of UN peacekeeping forces, isn't it? Then we are also part of UNSC. So these are the examples. Now this is very important. Second point which we will be discussing, this is very important. Diplomacy for development by integrating economic diplomacy with political diplomacy. Okay, this is very important. These are again two separate concepts which we need to understand. ठीक है, एक तरफ है पॉलिटिकल डेवलपमेंट्स के लिए डिप्लोमेसी करना है, दूसरे तरफ है कि फॉर द ओवरऑल डेवलपमेंट ऑफ अ कंट्री there has to be a diplomacy. When we do diplomacy for political gains, that is different thing, but when we do diplomacy for development, that will integrate both economic diplomacy and political diplomacy. When we will be involving ourselves in economic diplomacy, this will bring in more trade, more FDI, more FPI, okay, and this will enhance our bargaining capacity as well as our purchasing power parity. This will bring in more foreign exchange. This will strengthen the economic infrastructure of a country. That is why this will lead to development, that is economic diplomacy. Similarly, it has to be coupled with political diplomacy, like sharing of ideals. For example, democracy. Fine, democracy is an ideal which is shared by US and India, therefore they are termed as natural partners. Fine, they are termed as natural partners. Why? Because both of them have respect for democracy. Fine, this is the example of a political diplomacy. Okay, I hope I am clear. Now let us move to next slide, and before that I will discuss track 1, track 2 and track 3, track 1.5 diplomacy. Give me just 1 minute. Okay, just give me 1 minute. I will look into comment section as well, so please give me 1 minute. I have asked many questions. Yeah, so this slide is in front of you. Then before that I'll read some comments. Jitesh has told that cyber security India US, okay, India US equal to CERT. Fine. Jitesh has, okay, Jitesh, computer emergency response team, that I won't consider as example because that is more of an internal affair. Fine. If you are aware, there is a Budapest Convention on cyber security. Tell me how many of you are aware of this, because I have discussed this in the class. I very well remember Budapest Convention on cyber security. If you remember my class on cyber security, where we had dealt with hacking, cyber security, etc., there I had discussed this Budapest Convention on cyber security. Fine, so this is the example. Fine. Then Kiran has told that conferences in 2020 International Cyber Security Forum. Yes, this can also be an example, Kiran, that is correct. Then Jitesh has given a very good example regarding solar alliance in energy sector. Yes, Jitesh, very good. Then also the oil, the purchase of oil with the Gulf countries, that is also an example of energy security. Then International Solar Alliance headquartered in Gurugram. Okay, Kiran, correct answer. Then Jitesh has told COP25. Yes, COP25. Okay, that is climate deal. Then Sweta has told energy security, UAE and Saudi Arabia, and investments in Russia's Far East Vladivostok. Yes, that is also a good example by Sweta. Okay, so now we discussed this. Now you can look into track 1, 1.5. So as told by Kiran, Megha and all others. Okay, political and military. This is the keyword for track 1. Similarly, for track 1.5, both official and non-official sectors will be working together. Fine. So this no one gave me the correct answer, so I am marking a star. You can please make a note of it. ठीक है, आप बस ऐसे याद रखो कि 1.5 means hybrid. ठीक है. At one end of the spectrum we have track 1 where there are officials. In track 2 we have unofficials. So 1.5 क्या है? 1.5 is coming between track 1 and 2. Therefore 1.5 will consist of both official and non-official. This is the technique through which you can remember track 1.5 diplomacy. Fine. Then track 3, as told by Megha and Kiran and all other people correctly, people to people diplomacy. Fine. So it is so easy, isn't it? Track 1 official, government, political and military. Track 1.5 official plus non-official. Track 2 unofficial. Track 3 people to people. Done. Okay. So I hope now it is clear. Give me just 1 minute. We will roll back to our actual slide which we were discussing. Okay. Fine. So we were in this slide. Okay. So we discussed this slide, isn't it? So let us move ahead. Now, in short, our foreign policy has at least 4 important goals. Fine. So what all are the important goals? We will be focusing on that, and therefore that is something which I have marked in bold. Okay, so the first is that protect our country from traditional and non-traditional threats. Now give me the example of traditional and non-traditional threats. Fine. In the comment section, give me the example of traditional and non-traditional threats. Now I am also trying to develop a culture of peer review. Fine. That is, if some of you are not able to recall some examples and other people are giving very good examples and you are getting some examples from discussion as well, try to make a note of it. Ultimately, the more examples you will write, the more good marks you will get. Simple concept is so simple. Fine. So give me the example of traditional and non-traditional threats. So this is the one important goal of our foreign policy. Okay? Then the second is to create an external environment which is conducive for an inclusive development of India. मतलब simple है, each and every people of our country must be able to develop or must be able to harvest the fruit which will be brought to the country as a foreign policy initiative or a diplomatic dialogue negotiations. Fine, that is the main intention of the second objective of our foreign policy goals. Okay, then third is that to ensure that India's voice is heard on global forums. Very, very important, and this is the third important goal. Fine, and again we have multiple number of examples for this. Give me just one example. Okay, and that India is able to influence world opinion, isn't it? And recently, after when we have gained a sufficient economic leverage and our demographic dividend, so on the basis of this we are claiming our enhanced stature at multiple global platforms. So give me one or two examples. Fine, so that is the third important goal. Fine, कि भाई हमारा आवाज जो हमारी आवाज है that should be heard. We must be able to make our voices heard, our opinions count. That is the essence. And the fourth is that to engage and protect Indian diaspora. Again, give me examples. There are multiple examples and there's even a movie. Okay, there's a movie on this, a Bollywood movie. Give me the name of that movie at least. Okay, and you will be able to give me examples as well. So give me regarding this. Fine, so that was all. Let us move ahead. Now this is something which we have discussed in our first slide, that is dynamic world, proactive and pragmatic approach. This means that with changing dynamism in terms of shifting of the balance of powers or changing of world equations and interests of various countries and the changing realities of the world, be it the climate problem or the corona problem or the trade deficit problems. So that is called dynamism, and in order to address that dynamism we need to have a proactive and pragmatic approach in the conduct of our foreign policy and our diplomatic dialogues. Fine, this is the essence of this particular line. Okay, so now let us look into what are some of the fundamental principles and features of our foreign policy. Fine, we will be discussing some of the fundamental principles and features. So the first fundamental principle is punch seal. Okay, all of you might be aware of this, the punch seal. Fine, so very important fact and it can be a very probable prelims question. Fine, formally enunciated in the agreement on trade between Tibet region of China and India signed on April 29, 1954. Okay, this was signed on 1954 between Tibet region of China and India, and there are 5 principles. The word punch means 5. Fine, therefore 5 principles. What are those 5 principles? You will find that these principles are resonating. Whatever we have discussed, fine, whatever we have discussed, these will be resonated in this punch seal principle as well. So now let me read some comments. Okay, so I've got some answers. Traditional is poverty given by Jitesh, and then agri sector issues. Okay, Sweta has told that non-traditional threats are bioterrorism and cybersecurity. Perfect example, Sweta, very good. Then Jitesh has told growing population. Yes, Jitesh, that is also correct. Then Kiran has told that traditional is poverty and agricultural problems, non-traditional is banking system crisis. Okay, banking system crisis is also correct, and whatever answer has been given by Sweta, that is also correct. Fine. Then Jitesh has told UNSC. Yes, UNSC is a very good example. Then Jitesh has told diaspora in US, London, France, etc. Okay, correct. But I asked you, give me one example where we have tried to protect our diaspora through some crisis or something like that. Give me an example. I have given you the hint that there's a movie also, and the movie's name is Airlift. If you are aware of the movie's name, Airlift, fine, so that is an example. Similarly, Operation Rahat. Okay, Operation Rahat is there, or with I'm just forgetting I'm just for missing the name right now, in Qatar or Oman, where there was a rescue operation conducted by Indian Air Force. Fine, so that is there. So these are the examples. Fine, then just give me 1 minute. Okay, then Pallavi has given the example that traditional is wars and poverty. Okay, fine. And Jitesh has told that majorly in US. Okay, so diaspora is majorly in US. That is the answer of Jitesh. Fine. Then non-traditional is natural disasters and irregular migration. Okay, Pallavi after a long time, Pallavi has given an answer. Fine, so that is very good. Then Jitesh has told diaspora. Fine. Then Pansil is 5 mutual respect. Okay, then we will discuss Pansil. Kiran has told Sri Lanka and Tiger Zinda hai. Okay, Tiger Zinda hai. Fine. Then Jitesh has told peaceful coexistence, diaspora, Gulf crisis. Yes, Sweta, very very correct. Diaspora in the Gulf crisis, the way we tried to serve the interest of diaspora, and we tried to negotiate to bring back our people safely, and that was done with the help of a diplomatic channel. Fine, so that is the example. Okay, so that was all. Then now 5 principles. I will be very brief because all of you might be aware. So one is mutual respect for each other's territorial integrity and sovereignty. Fine. Then another is mutual non aggression. ठीक है, मतलब कि मैं भी आपके territories पे I will not encroach, you should also not encroach. That is mutual non aggression. And you should not be very very aggressive when conducting any diplomatic talks or following any diplomatic negotiations or bargain. That is the point. Then the third is mutual non-interference. That is, in our internal affairs you should not interfere. That is the point, and this is repeatedly being harped by India in J&K relations. Fine, यही प्रिंसिपल है जो इंडिया बार बार रीआइटरेट करती है कि भाई J&K में no country is we do not give anyone to right to interfere in our internal matters. Then the fourth is equality and mutual benefit. Fine, and fifth is peaceful coexistence. That is, you also remain in peace and prosper, we will also remain in peace and prosper with mutual understanding and brotherhood. Fine. Then you might be aware of this, that is Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, isn't it? This is a very popular slok that we try to use, and we can even quote it in our essay paper. Fine, that is, the world is one family. We believe in Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, and we try to integrate it with the recent comment by our PM, that is Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas and Sabka Viswas. Fine. So this slok by the PM is a reiteration of the word or the phrase that is Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, which again forms one of the fundamental pillars of our foreign policy ideology. Okay. Then again, one important aspect of our foreign policy is that India is opposed to export of ideologies and change of regimes. Fine. जहाँ जहाँ पे भी regime change होता है, और if there is an export of ideology, be it the ideology of communism, okay, or the ideology of capitalism, these exports of ideology is something which India is not in favor of. Fine, that is the meaning of this line. Fine, that is, India does not endorse the idea of regime change or violation of territorial integrity in a particular country by the use of force or other means by another country or a group of countries. Fine, this is the example, and the reason is that since we believe in democracy, fine, we believe in democracy, therefore regime change is antithetical to the very idea of democracy itself, and that is the reason why we are not in favor of change of regime. This is not something which we support. Okay, so that was there. Then let us move ahead. What are the examples? So as I told you that quoting examples with every statement is very very important. US interventions in Iraq, Libya, Syria, or Russia's intervention in Georgia, Ukraine, etc. Fine. So this is the example of intervention, or this is the example of an attempt to change of regime, and which has not been supported by India. Fine. Then at the same time, India does not hesitate in promoting democracy wherever potential exists. Okay, as I told you that democracy is something which we aspire for and which we believe in. Therefore, अगर हमें chance मिलता है तो we do not lose this chance to propagate democracy. Fine, and this is proactively done by providing assistance. Someone of you had given the example of medical diplomacy, where I told that is the example of a soft power. So that is similar thing, that is, you are trying to provide assistance in capacity building, that can be in medical sector or in terms of road infrastructure or any such thing. Fine. Then strengthening the institutions of democracy. Example is building of parliament in Afghanistan. Fine, आपको अगर याद होगा तो we India has given some assistance to develop the parliament in Afghanistan. That is the example of this. Then albeit with the explicit consent of the concerned government, very very important. Okay, we do whatever we do with the prior consent of the government of that particular country and not by our own will. Fine, that is very important. Then example Afghanistan. Now tell me what is India's stance on resolving the Afghanistan Taliban issue. Fine, there is a keyword which is coming in newspapers multiple times. Tell me what is that. Fine, this is the question for you. Then another thing is that India does not endorse unilateral sanctions or military actions. Fine, we do not endorse unilateral sanctions. अगर कोई एक पावरफुल कंट्री है, अगर उसको मन किया तो वो अपना इंटरेस्ट को सर्व करने के लिए, if it is trying to bring a blockade on the economic development of another country, then we do not support that. Fine, that is the meaning. Fine, then India therefore contributes only to such peacekeeping military operations which are part of the UN peacekeeping forces. Why? Because UN in itself is a global collaboration, isn't it? Here there are multiple countries, not single country. Okay, therefore we do not believe in unilateral sanctions, but if there is a global support, there is a global demand, we will be definitely going with that. And that is why the example is that we are one of the largest contributors of UN peacekeeping forces. Fine, this is the example. Okay, then another important dimension of our foreign policy is that we say a no to interference and yes to intervention. Very very important. Fine, now we need to understand the difference between interference and intervention. Okay, so let us first read this. India does not believe in interference in the internal affairs of other countries. However, if an act, innocent or deliberate, by any country has the potential of impinging upon India's national interests, India does not hesitate in quick and timely intervention. Give me an example for this. Okay, give me an example for this where we have tried to intervene and sort out the matter. Give me the example. And interference and intervention, these are two separate things. When it comes to interference, we do not subscribe to that, but if it comes to intervention, we go for that. Why? Because intervention is something when we have to ultimately take in order to protect our own country's interest. That is the reason. But when we are trying to interfere, that means we are unnecessarily trying to plug our nose in the other country's internal affairs, which is not the part of our objectives of the foreign policy. Fine, that is the point. Okay, then I'll read some comments. Then okay, Jitesh has told that China has betrayed us repeatedly. Okay, fine. Kiran, it is mostly used by Z channel. Fine, then other channels also do, and that is so beautiful. Okay, Kiran has told that the recent changes in Afghanistan regime. Yes, but I want to know what is that term. Sweta, if you can tell me the term. Afghanistan capacity building and infrastructure. Very very correct. The Zarang Dilaram highway also is the example. Then Jitesh has told we have invested more than $2 billion in Afghanistan. Okay, then Hong Kong crisis. Okay, Hong Kong crisis is there, but there we did not intervene, isn't it? I am asking you, tell me example, give me an example where we intervened. Okay, and another question which I asked you, that tell me what is India's stance in terms of Afghanistan. Fine, give me the answer. I have not received the answer till now. Fine, then what we need to mind, the difference between intervention and interference. Very very important, please mind it. Okay, please mind it. Intervention is qualitatively different from interference, particularly when the intervention is made at the request of the country concerned. Example, Bangladesh in 1971. Now I have already given you the example. This is something which I asked you here. Fine, give me the example. That is when Bangladesh requested us to please help us in war. When Pakistan had waged a war in 1971, then India had intervened. That is the example. Fine. Then again IPKF in Sri Lanka and Maldives. These are some of the examples. Fine. So now I think the difference between intervention and interference is clear. Okay, then as I told you that we do not believe in aggressive instance on any matter. कोई भी matter हो, we believe कि भाई we can resolve it with the help of dialogue and through peaceful means. Therefore we do not favor aggressiveness in our conduct of foreign policy. That is, we favor constructive engagement over aggression. That is, war is no solution. Fine, everything can be resolved with the help of talks, with the help of negotiations, with the help of discussions and debate. fine, and ironing out the differences. That is the meaning. That is the constructive engagement. Means such engagement or talks which results in some fruitful results or fruitful actions. That is the meaning of constructive engagement. The policy of engagement is not allowed, however, to be misunderstood as India's weakness. Very very important. ठीक है, अगर हम if we are not resorting to war, that doesn't mean that you should consider as us as weak. The only thing is that we are a peace loving nation and we believe in mutual respect, understanding and peace and prosperity for all. That is Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. This is the reason that we believe in policy of constructive engagement and not aggression. That should not be construed as our weakness. That is the important point. Okay, then strong and loud message emanates from India each and every time our patience is tested. Fine. So this we can give the example as India Kargil War of 1999. Then again other examples are the surgical strike to target terrorists launch pads in Pakistan occupied Indian territory in September 2016 is one such example. Another is airstrike at the Balakot camp in February 2019 in retaliation to Pulwama terror attack is yet another example. So these are examples where we have even given a befitting reply to the the trouble creating country. Okay, then another important dimension of our foreign policy is strategic autonomy. Fine, what does this mean? Strategic autonomy. Partnership, yes. Alliance, no. You tell me in the comment section what is the difference. What is the difference between partnership and alliance? Fine, tell me in the comment section. Now I will read some comments. Okay, Kiran has given the answer during Bangladesh Liberation War, correct. Then Sri Lanka, okay, Jitesh. Okay, finally Sweta has given the answer. Afghan. Okay, Sweta, you did not tell me full. It's Afghan led, Afghan owned and Afghan controlled policy. Okay, Afghan led, Afghan owned and Afghan controlled. This is our stance in terms of resolving Afghanistan and Taliban problems. Fine. Then okay, Jitesh has told Taliban. Okay, fine. But Sweta has given a good answer, but all parts are not covered. She has only addressed Afghan led. Fine, I have told the remaining part. Now tell me what is the difference between partnership and alliance. Fine. Then another dimension of our foreign policy is global consensus on issues of global dimensions, that is climate change. You can give some more examples. Fine, tell me in the comment section some more examples apart from climate change where we are seeking a global consensus on issues of global dimensions. Apart from climate change, give me another example. So this is my first question which you need to answer in the comment section, and this is my second question. Fine, give me the answer. Okay, then now let us look into foreign policy from 2014 till 2019. Unprecedented diplomatic outreach. What is the example? Example is PM visited 92 nations in 55 months. Very very important data, isn't it? पिछले लगभग 5 साल में 92 नेशंस को हमारे पीएम ने विजिट किया है, विच इज अ सिंबल ऑफ आवर अनप्रेसिडेंटेड डिप्लोमेटिक आउटरीच. नाउ व्हाट हैव बीन सम ऑफ द स्पेसिफिक थ्रस्ट एरियाज ऑफ इंडियाज फॉरेन पॉलिसी? द फर्स्ट एंगल इज इंडियाज नेबरहुड फर्स्ट पॉलिसी, इजंट इट? सो लेट अस लुक इनटू द वेरियस डायमेंशंस ऑफ नेबरहुड फर्स्ट पॉलिसी. ओके, India's economy is sound and its growth rates are higher than those of other regions, and India's stature as an important player in international affairs is growing, isn't it? These are some of the facts which we all are aware of it. Therefore, I will not go in depth explanation. Fine. Then India's credentials as a responsible nuclear state and its proven capabilities in space technology are acknowledged worldwide. So this is again a fact which cannot be denied. Fine. So these asymmetries have caused historically a sense of trust deficit in region vis-a-vis India, isn't it? That is, our neighbors, they are more afraid of us, isn't it? They think that since we are growing more powerful in space domain or technology domain or economic domain, then there might be a time when we might coerce these countries, these small countries, for example Bhutan or Nepal or Sri Lanka. Okay, so therefore there is a power asymmetry, and if you remember we had discussed this also in our class, what is meant by asymmetric balance of power. You might be able to recall it. Fine. Then Jitesh has given answer that like logistics agreement with US. Okay, so this is with regard to what? Okay, this is with regard to, I think, partnership versus alliance. I think this is the answer by Jitesh in that regard. Then India's Air Force station in Afghanistan. Then global dimensions is multipolar world, permanent seat in UNSC, climate change. Okay, this is the answer by Sweta. Okay, and you can also add the issue of terrorism, fine, to it, Sweta. Okay, yes, Kiran has given the answer. Terrorism is a global concern, growing China's economic influence, fine, very good. Then Sweta has given the example of alliances, NATO and Warsaw, perfect, very good. So that is the meaning of alliance, fine. And partnership can be, you know, anything, like, you know, even partnership can be what you like, if for SDG there's a partnership, then in order to, you know, quad can be called a partnership, fine. So partnership is basically a lighter term where we are trying to achieve the common objective, that too the manner in which we will achieve that will not be by harming some other party's interest. That is the meaning of partnership. Partnership matlab ho gaya, this is a positive word, ठीक है. Okay, this is a positive word and this will not have an adverse impact on anyone else, fine. That is the meaning of this word, that is partnership. But when we talk about alliance, this is, you know, this is having a military connotation, fine. मिलिट्री कॉन्टेशन कि भाई मारपीट करना है या फिर वॉर करना है, ठीक है, या ग्रुप बना के मतलब अपने इंटरेस्ट को सर्व करना है अदर पार्टी के इंटरेस्ट को सब्जुगेट करके या डोमिनेट करके. दैट इज द मीनिंग ऑफ एलियंस, फाइन. सो दिस इज द डिफरेंस बिटवीन दीज टू terms. I hope I am clear. Okay, then Jitesh says that recently with Australia we had similar agreements. Okay, yes Jitesh, that is correct, fine. Now let us move ahead. Then vested interests in neighboring countries have floated erroneous narratives such as India acts like a big bully or a big brother, fine. This we already discussed. In some countries there are segments of society which considers being anti-Indian as being equal to patriotism, isn't it? This also we discussed in the first slide of our today's class. Okay, that is how Nepal is, you know, considering us as our big brother, and that they are thinking that we are, you know, trying to coerce them. That is the problem, fine. Then in his first term, PM visited all SAARC countries except Maldives, largely due to the political instability in that country. When PM undertook a tour of other Indian Ocean blue economy countries in March 2015. So this is again a fact. This is again a fact which proves this point, that is unprecedented diplomatic outreach. This point is proved by this fact also, apart from this fact which we read, fine. Now let us move ahead. The president of Maldives has however visited India thrice since he assumed office in November 2018. So this again shows that how other countries as well, they are, you know, interested in increasing their diplomatic ties with our country, fine. Then India remains committed to integration of South Asia through SAARC process, fine. And now SAARC as an organization has not lived up to expectations when measured in terms of delivery. Why? Because multiple times, you know, the talks, they are being stalled because of non-cooperation of some of the members, for example Pakistan. That is the main problem, fine. So now let us, we will be discussing further in that. It has been in existence for several decades and yet South Asia remains the least integrated region in the world. A very, very prominent issue in our, you know, groupings or alignments, fine, when it comes to developing better ties in South Asia, fine. And to make it more worse, you know, there is a India-Pakistan relations which is very, very poor, fine. And Pakistan's policy of obstruction has had an adverse impact on the process in SAARC, isn't it? Every time Pakistan tries to play an obstructionist approach. Now let us look into some of the examples, fine. What are the examples? The first example is that Nepal, Bhutan and Bangladesh went ahead and signed a landmark motor vehicles agreement for seamless movement of road traffic among 4 SAARC countries in June 2015. Okay, this is one example, and this slide is again very, very important from your prelims viewpoint. Okay, in prelims there can be a questions from this slide as well. Okay, then in May 2017, India launched the South Asia satellite, a communication satellite built by ISRO to provide a variety of communication services over the South Asian region. The satellite was launched despite reservations by Pakistan. तो यहाँ पे this is being reflected that how Pakistan tries to, you know, obstruct or tries to question every attempt which India tries to make in order to better integrate or serve the greater good of all the South Asian countries. That is the example. Okay, then India decided to boycott the 2016 SAARC summit which was scheduled to be held in Islamabad. Fine. Why India decided to boycott? Tell me in the comment section. Okay, this is the question. This is another question. Tell me in the comment section why India decided to boycott the 2016 SAARC summit. Okay, you will already get a hint. Okay, we have discussed this. Fine, we have discussed this. Let me go back to the slide. Just give me 1 minute. Okay, fine. So I'm not getting it right now, but you give me the answer. We have discussed this in our earlier slide, where we discussed about the terror attack and the befitting reply given by India. So that is the hint which I have given you. Okay, now while remaining committed to SAARC, India has clearly focused on BIMSTEC, that is Bay of Bengal Initiative for Multi-Sectoral Technical and Economic Cooperation, as a platform for inter-regional cooperation between 5 SAARC countries, that is India, Bhutan, Bangladesh, Nepal and Sri Lanka, and 2 Southeast countries, that is Myanmar and Thailand. ठीक है, तो यहाँ पे इससे हम लोग ये एसेंस निकाल रहे हैं कि बिम्स्टेक जो बनाया गया है ना, बिम्स्टेक इज एक्टिंग एज अ ब्रिज, ओके, टू कनेक्ट द इंटरेस्ट ऑफ सार्क एज वेल एज एशियान. इन दोनों के इंटरेस्ट को कोलैबोरेट और क्लब करने के लिए देयर इज एन अरेंजमेंट दैट इज बिम्स्टेक विच एक्ट्स एज अ ब्रिज अमंग दीज 2 institutions. Fine. Then okay, so Jitesh has given the example as Uri attack. Fine, so I would like to get other comments from some other people as well. Fine, apart from Jitesh. Then Kiran has told that, but sir, due to tussles between countries may create problems and may provide another country to overtake. Example, Pak and India fight create threat to SAARC, and China Mekong project due to India delay. Yes, Kiran, that is also a very worrying dimension of our foreign policy. Like, not our in general, the foreign policy or the international arrangements or relations, because since there are multiple stakeholders involved, तो होता क्या है कि अगर किसी भी एक स्टेक होल्डर का इंटरेस्ट सर्व नहीं होगा, देन देयर विल बी अ रिफ्ट, एंड दैट इज वन ऑफ द रीजंस व्हाई सार्क इज नॉट tried to perform even after so much time since its existence. So Jitesh and Sweta has given the answer, that is Uri, attack on Uri, because of which we stalled or we boycotted the SAARC summit. Fine, so that is correct. Then what about Pakistan and China angle? Fine. Pakistan in 2014, India's relations with Pakistan were at low ebb, that is we were at the most lowest point. Fine. In 2014, India has adopted a firm policy of terror and talks cannot go together, isn't it? This is something which we are continuously sticking to. जब Pakistan tries to have a word with us, we tell them कि भैया, first of all you try to stop the terror activities, okay, then only we will have a talk with you. That is the point. And despite repeated calls from Pak's PM Imran Khan for the resumption of dialogue which we discussed, India has made it abundantly clear that no departure will be made unless there are tangible and verifiable concrete evidence. This is the keyword. ठीक है, tangible and verifiable concrete evidence of Pakistan that they are shunting away all the terror activities. Unless that is there, we will not be talking. Fine. And another concern is that please stop interfering in our Kashmir issue. Fine. These are some of the main bone of contention among India and Pakistan broadly. Fine. Then what about China? Much thing is already in news. Whatever is there in past, we will discuss that. India does not endorse the CPEC. Okay, that is the Belt and Road Initiative, and a part of it which crosses through Pakistan, that is the POK. Fine. And it thinks that it is an attack on India's sovereignty. That is the reason why we do not subscribe to the Belt and Road Initiative. Okay. Then again we know that China is blocking India's membership of NSG and protects Pakistan on the issue of terrorism by projecting it as a victim of the terrorism, isn't it? And this was the reason that when we had to designate Masood Azhar as terrorist, for considerable amount of time China did not let it happen, and every time it comes to protect the Pakistani's interest कि भाई terrorism से they are also infected. India is not the only country. Fine. Then China is also apprehensive when we join hands with US and Japan and Australia to forge an anti-China alliance to counter it in Indo-Pacific region. The example is Quad grouping. ठीक है, तो these are also some of the engagements because of which China is suspicious of our activities. And if you remember in our class when we had discussed Quad and Quad plus diplomacy, there we tried to answer that how we are projecting it to China that no, we are not, this is not anti-China alliance. You might remember. If you don't remember, you can go back to the Quad and Quad plus diplomacy video and you can watch that video. Okay. Then there's a huge balance of trade in China's favor and also an unresolved border dispute. Both these issues we are aware, we have discussed. Fine. Then the understanding which emerged from informal summit between PM Modi and President Xi Jinping in China in April 2018, which has come to be known as Wuhan Spirit, मतलब कि हम लोग अपने प्रॉब्लम्स को रिजॉल्व करेंगे थ्रू कोऑपरेशन, थ्रू डायलॉग्स. फाइन, दैट इज two sides must enhance efforts to build upon the convergences and handle the differences through peaceful discussions. Fine, this was something which was the essence of Wuhan spirit, and right now you might be getting this in news, that is the Wuhan spirit, the Mahabalipuram dialogues. Fine. Now let us look into the Southeast Asia angle. Fine, that is ASEAN and East Asia. What about the diplomacy angle or the foreign policy angle when we consider this particular region? Fine. So what was the history? India was the first which made an outreach towards the Asian tigers, and it was as early as in 1990s in the backdrop of the demise of the USSR. तो यहाँ पे थोड़ा सा मैं कॉन्टेक्स्ट डिस्कस करूँगा. When the Iron Curtain was raised, when there was a fall of communism, Cold War ended, then we were one of the first countries to reach to the Asian tigers. Tell me who all are the countries under Asian tigers. Okay, this is the question. Tell me in the comment section who all are the countries who are under Asian tigers. Fine. So then why? So that we will be able to liberalize our economy and integrate it with the world economy. Fine. Because of this, we tried to initiate an outreach program to reach to the Asian tigers. Fine. Then as a result, we had India's Look East policy. Another question. Tell me who was the main person behind India's Look East policy, who is considered as the generator of Look East policy, and what was the year? Fine. This is question number 2 for you people from this slide. Fine. First question is, tell me the members of Asian tigers. First question. Second is, India's Look East policy was coined by whom, or was generated or propagated by whom, and in which year? Fine. Very, very important. So okay, Jitesh doesn't know. Sweta has given the answer Singapore, Indonesia, Malaysia. So other people, I would like to hear a response from you as well. Okay, Sweta has given the answer PV Narasimha Rao. Very good. And what was the year, Sweta? The first phase of now, we will be looking into the 3 phases of Look East policy. The first phase is Look East policy of 1992 to 2002. And it was ASEAN centered. मतलब first time में हम लोगों ने ज़्यादा focus ASEAN countries पे किया, ठीक है? And focus primarily on trade and investment linkages. This was the first phase, ठीक है? And during this period, India entered into a sectoral dialogue partnership with ASEAN in 1992, which was upgraded to full dialogue partnership status in 1996, when India also joined the ASEAN Regional Forum. Very, very important from your both prelims and mains perspective. Fine, very, very important slide. Then from 2002, India began holding annual Indian ASEAN summit level meetings. Fine, this is the summit level meetings between India and ASEAN countries began in 2002, an important fact which you need to remember. So this was all regarding phase 1. Now what about phase 2? The phase 2 began in 2003. Governments expanded definition of East, covering Australia, New Zealand, China, Japan and South Korea with ASEAN at its core. Fine, this is the phase 2, when we expanded the word or the meaning of the word East beyond ASEAN to cover countries like Australia, New Zealand, China, Japan, South Korea, etc. And now there was a shift from trade to wider economic and security issues. As we saw that in first phase, most important was trade and investment linkage. पर अब क्या है कि हम लोग सिक्योरिटी इश्यूज को भी कंसिडर कर रहे हैं. क्यों? क्योंकि इस टाइम पे आते आते टेररिज्म वाज अ नोन फैक्ट विच वाज वेरी वेरी ट्रबल क्रिएटिंग. देयरफॉर सिक्योरिटी इश्यूज बिकेम वेरी वेरी prominent, and it was reflected in our global alliances, or I'll tell global partnerships and dialogues. Fine. Then we also became interested in securing our sea lanes of communication and counter terrorism. Then in 2012, the 20 years of dialogue partnership culminated into strategic partnership. Fine. This is again an important fact for both prelims and mains. Fine. Then the third phase is that this Look East policy was changed to Act East policy, and this was more than just rebranding. Why? Because some of the critics, they just tell that Look East को बस word change करके Act East बना दिया, but there is not much difference. But yes, there is a difference. We will look what is that difference. It's more than just rebranding. Fine. So now I have got some answers. Ram has given the correct answer: Hong Kong, Singapore, South Korea and Taiwan. So okay, Sweta had given the answer also. Singapore is the correct, but not Indonesia and Malaysia. Okay, Sweta. Then Jitesh has told 1996. Sweta has told 1992. Sweta is very very close. Jitesh, 1996 is not correct. 1995 is also not correct, Sweta. 1993 you are very close. Then Kiran has again given a very good answer. That is the high growth economies of Hong Kong, Singapore, South Korea and Taiwan. Yes, both Ram and Kiran are correct. So PV Narasimha Rao, Locust policy 1992. Fine. 1992 is the answer. Okay. Then the most significant exposition of India's Act East policy was calling heads to attend the 2018 Republic Day celebrations. Fine. Then India is now expected not only to bolster its economic and strategic engagements with the region but also to emerge as a potential security balancer in the region as well. So this is the keyword. ठीक है, मतलब we are moving towards a net security provider and a potential security balancer. This is the change in the stance or change in the outlook. Fine. Now let us look into how Act East is different from Look East policy. Very very important. Fine. Since we discussed few minutes back that we move from Look East to Act East, and Act East is not merely rebranding. Now how is that? Let us look into that. Fine. So Look East policy focused on ASEAN. Fine, ASEAN, and that is economic integration. Fine, this we all discussed. Fine, no need to repeat. In 2012 it was strategic partnership. In 2012 we have discussed this. Now the time when India launched Look East policy in 1992, India's trade with ASEAN was $2 billion. Please focus on this fact. Okay, but after signing the FTA in 2010, now it is $72 billion in 2017-18. तो आप यहाँ पे ये ट्रांजेक्शन देख सकते हो. ठीक है, from $2 billion we have come so far as to $72 billion in 2017-18. Then we have discussed is that East Asia Summit. Okay, we have been an active participant, and ASEAN Regional Forum. Fine, these are some of the things. Fine. Now what about Act East policy? Act East policy, economic integration, obviously ये तो रहेगा ही. इसके अलावा what are some of the additional features which is there in Act East policy? That is security cooperation. Fine, and there is also inclusion of the East Asian countries. Fine, these are the three prominent keywords which separates Look East from Act East. That is economic integration plus security cooperation plus inclusion of East Asian countries, and these 4 C's of Act East policy. What are the defining features of Act East policy? And they are culture, commerce, connectivity and capacity building. Fine, so I hope you will remember these 4 C's, because these 4 C's are something which differentiates Look East from Act East. Fine. Now as I told you that apart from economic integration, security cooperation is the new dimension. Fine, which has been added into India's Act East policy. Why? Because of China's assertiveness in the South China Sea and our own interest, India's interest of securing freedom of navigation and our own role in the Indian Ocean. So these are our some of the own national interests, because of which we aligned our foreign policy. So we are again going back to basics, back to our starting class lecture, that is there are only permanent interests. In order to reflect those permanent interests, there will be a change in foreign policy, and therefore our foreign policy changed from Look East to Act East. Fine, and then again there is an example, that is Indo-Pacific informal grouping called Quad. Okay, let us move ahead. Now let us discuss our foreign policy concepts in terms of big powers like USA and Russia. Fine. So US has accorded the status of defense partner, which puts India at par with NATO allies. This is a development which we need to remember. Okay, then USA would also like India to join hands with Japan, Australia and others in the region to act as the net security provider in the Indo-Pacific. This we have already discussed, and the grouping has been called as Quad. Okay, और यहाँ पे ये जो countries है, ये जो 4 countries है, इनका कुछ common interests है. What are those common interests? Those are maritime security, freedom of navigation, piracy and disaster management, and also to control China, though that is not officially mentioned. Fine, so these are the common interests, and because of to serve these interests there is a grouping called Quad. Fine. Then the US sanctions on Russia, that is CAATSA. What is the full form of CAATSA? Tell me in the comment section. Fine, tell me in the comment section what is the full form of CAATSA. Fine. So Okay, so Ram has given the answer, that is 1992 Look East policy. Okay, Ram, that is correct. Jitesh has told also it increased trade deficit. Yes, that is also one of the point. That is the inherent problem in the South Asian region. Groupings and alliances. Groupings, I mean, not alliances. So now, tell me what is the full form of CAATSA? This is my question. Fine. Then, okay, sorry, I have already mentioned the full form in the bracket, so no need to give me the answer. Fine, I did not see it. Then also Iran have implications for India's defense procurements, that is S-400 missile defense systems from Russia, and for its energy security due to inability to buy oil from Iran, isn't it? So this is again an interlinkage. अब क्या हो रहा है कि US सैंक्शन लगा रही है अगर रसिया पे, तो you might be aware that it gave concession to India to procure S-400 missiles. Fine. Again, when US imposed sanctions on Iran, then that impacted India because we have a huge import of oil from Iran, and there is an arrangement called INSTEX. If you are aware of this arrangement, fine, that is INSTEX. Okay, this is there. This is not with us but with a similar country. You can give me the name of that country. Okay, just the name of that country. And for us, what is the benefit when we had deal with Iran is that they used to give us more time to they used to bear the charge of onboarding on ships of the oils, fine, and they used to give us more time to repay the amount of the trade which we used to do for oil business, fine. So these were some of the benefits which we had when we dealt with Iran to buy oil, fine. So we had the problem because US imposed sanctions, and because of that we tried to diversify our own energy needs, fine, be it replacing it with the renewables or negotiating it with other countries, for example US for shale gas, or with Russia, or with Saudi, fine. So that is the point. Then in addition, USA has withdrawn GSP, that is Generalized System of Preferences, under which India's exports to USA worth $5.6 billion were receiving preferential tariff. And you might be aware recently that US is reconsidering, okay, to restore this GSP status of India, fine. Now our relations with Russia are now on firm footing, and the focus of special and privileged strategic partnership is on defense, energy, space, and trade and investments. So these are some of the regions where we are cooperating with Russia. Okay, so UK, Germany. Okay, fine. Then Kiran has also given the answer as UK and Germany. Okay, so okay, hi Kela, how are you? Good evening and welcome to the class. Again Kela, you are almost coming when we will be winding up the class in next 10 to 15 minutes, so no problem, but you can go through the video. Then Sweta has given another name of the agreement, that is COMCASA agreement. Okay, then Kiran has given the full form, Countering America's Adversaries Through Sanctions Act of 2017, fine. And Ram has given the answer, France, UK and Germany. With them there is an arrangement, or you can tell it's basically EU, ठीक है ना. EU के साथ जो ईरान का जो agreement है, that is called as INSTEX. That is, they will be dealing in their own currency. They will be bypassing dollar, fine. That is the main objective of INSTEX, fine. Let us move ahead. Now we will be talking into second angle, that is diplomacy for development. If you remember, if you recall the first slide where we discussed that diplomacy for development is very, very important, where both political angle and economic angle will be taken into consideration together, fine. That is unique dovetailing of diplomacy and national aspirations. This is termed as diplomacy for development. Okay, for example, Japan has agreed to receive 10,000 Indians for skill development, whereas another 30,000 will get trained in Japanese style of manufacturing, fine. Then another important dimension is non-prescriptive development assistance. What does this means? Please try to understand, very, very important. Prescriptive development assistance का मतलब ये होता है, it means that if a country is giving you certain developmental aid, then it will come with certain terms and conditions of the the country which is giving the loan. You will have to abide by those. For example, World Bank, when it will give you aid, it will tell you to follow the concepts of good governance. It will prescribe कि the institutions, they should be independent, there should be fair and transparent process, there should be citizen-centric governance. So these prescriptions will be given by the country which is, or the body which is giving you the development aid. That is termed as prescriptive development assistance. With non-prescriptive development assistance, we mean that we are giving aid without any terms and conditions. That is the meaning. I hope you are getting my point. Okay, then how it is being done, as you know, it's soft power since early 1950s. We are practicing this non-prescriptive development assistance. This is a very, very important keyword. Fine. And in return, India only seeks a goodwill and friends of India. That's it. We do not impose any prescriptions ki bhai, if you will do this, then only this aid is, you know, applicable. We don't do this. We simply tell that in return you have a goodwill partnership with us and you be our, you know, a very good and a reliable friend. Fine. But in contrast, we have China's debt trap policy, which we have discussed in the earlier slide. Fine. And what is that? We have discussed, so I won't repeat these points. Example is Sri Lankan Hambantota port. We have discussed this as well. Then in Asia, Bhutan is the largest recipient of India's development assistance. A very, very important point. Please keep this in mind. And in June 2015, India pledged $1 billion aid for the reconstruction of earthquake hit Nepal. Again, very, very important point. And these are the examples of non-prescriptive development assistance. I repeat once again, please keep this in mind. Okay, then in October 2017, India signed an agreement with Bangladesh for $4.5 billion line of credit for implementation of development projects in Bangladesh. Again, an example of non-prescriptive development assistance, that is earthquake aid to Nepal, aid to Bhutan, then credit line of credit agreement with Bangladesh. These are some of the examples of non-prescriptive developmental aid. Fine. Then the last part is what are some of the priorities and challenges. Let us look into this. The first is in connectivity domain. What is the challenge? Within South Asia, the Bangladesh, Bhutan, India, Nepal, that is BBIN motor vehicle agreement provides seamless connectivity for movement of passenger and cargo vehicles within the four countries. Development of strategically important Chabar port, which connects India on the one hand with Iran and Afghanistan on the other hand with Central Asia, bypassing Pakistan, which is the common adversary of both Afghanistan and Pakistan. That is Afghanistan and India, you know, both of them see Pakistan as their common adversary. Fine, that is the main point. Fine. Now, what are the challenges to these? Fine. The challenge is that even though India has started talking to Iran in this context in 2003, the real push from India was given in mid-2014. That is 11 years of delay it took for us to sign the agreement. Okay. And finally, the first phase of the project was inaugurated in December of 2017. तो यहाँ पे challenges क्या है कि हम लोग जो भी agreements लाते हैं उनमें हमें speed up करना है, ठीक है, और जो differences हैं उनको minimize करना है. This is the one challenge. Another challenge is that even when you are bringing this connectivity project, the problem is, you know, all the countries do not look into it with the similar interests. That is the another problem which we have to address. Fine. Then India, Myanmar, Thailand highway under construction. This is another, you know, important aspect which is going on, which we need to complete fully, which we need to complete or execute successfully. Fine. Then another dimension is terrorism and multiple forms like corruption, black money, money laundering, fugitive economic offenders. Okay, each of them. And we as a country, as you know, as a peace loving and as a sovereign country with the intact economic and security interests, we are very much concerned with, you know, raising these issues at the global forums. Fine, that is corruption issues, black money issues, money laundering and fugitive economic offenders issues. Why? Because all of these are the roots to growing, you know, tree of terrorism. This is the main problem. Okay, then expeditious extradition of economic offenders such as Vijay Mallya, Nirav Modi, etc. would be another priority. Fine. So now I think this is the last slide. Yes, India's global aspirations. Finally, what, you know, are our global aspirations? That is, our first is that we, you know, we believe in certain degree of assertiveness in foreign affairs. Fine, that is we are gradually moving towards being an assertive power. Fine, that is we will be asserting and fighting for our own interests. We will be, you know, wanting that our opinion matters, it counts, and our voices heard at all international fora. That is our aspiration. Fine, that is now we believe that we will be part of rule making rather than rule following regime. In the multipolar world, we will be one of the strong poles. Very, very important. Whatever I am underlining or boxing, this is very, very important in this entire paragraph. That is, India's aspiration is that in the multipolar world, we should be one of the strong pole. This is first. Then from rule following to rule making. This is our another aspiration. The third aspiration is that we want to be assertive in our foreign policy and foreign affairs, and that is reflected through multiple engagements like aspiration to be a permanent member of the expanded UNSC, for which a large number of countries have already pledged support. Fine, this is one of the examples which shows that we are going in for more degree of assertiveness. Okay, so now with this we have completed our today's class of India's foreign policy. I have covered multiple dimensions, and yet there are multiple angles which can be explored, and where you can add notes in multiple segments. Fine, so what I have done in this 1.5 hours class, I have tried to give you a holistic picture touching multiple angles of foreign policy, the way it is conducted, the way it is integrated with India's interests, diplomacy, other regions, everything. Fine, now you can build upon these to be a very, very good and consolidated notes. That was my entire intent and objective. Now let us come into our prelims based MCQs. So the first question of today is on your screen. Please look into the question and give me the answer. First statement is Panchsheel was formally enunciated in the Agreement on Trade between People's Republic of China and India in 1954. First statement. Second is India is opposed to intervention and interference as a respect for mutual sovereignty and territorial integrity. The third is 2014 marks a shift from look east to act east in foreign policy domain. These are the three statements. Tell me what is the correct answer in the comment section. Fine. So now I'll read some comments. Okay, Ram says that, sir, sometimes we heard that we are in fiscal deficit. In that situation, is it necessary for India to grant aids for other neighbor countries? Okay, yeah, this is a very good question by Ram. Fine. So actually, Ram, the thing is that in this, tackling fiscal deficit and giving aid to country, okay, that is considered different aspects when we are trying to move towards the path of fiscal management, which means that in terms of accounting, when we talk about fiscal deficit, there we deal with whatever are the incomes for a country and whatever are its expenditure as a government. ठीक है, तो हम लोग अगर fiscal aid जो हम किसी और country को दे रहे हैं ना aid, that is not considered as the part of that fiscal deficit. Therefore both are different thing, they are not interrelated. That is, if you go to give an aid to certain country, that will not figure in your increasing of fiscal deficit. Both are kept separate, they are not mixed. That is the reason. Therefore giving fiscal deficit is a different concept, and giving aid to a country is a different concept rather than giving increasing or widening of fiscal deficit. Fiscal deficit is entirely domestic matter, domestic economic policy matter, whereas external aid is something you can think that it is kept aside. ठीक है, फॉर एग्जाम्पल मान लो आप एक लैपटॉप लेने के लिए कुछ सेविंग्स कर रहे हो, ठीक है, तो वो जो सेविंग्स आप कर रहे हो वो आपने असाइड कर दिया है. अगर आपके सैलरी में कुछ चेंजेस आएंगे तो वो जो सेविंग्स आपने ऑलरेडी रखा हुआ है लैपटॉप लेने के लिए, दैट विल नॉट चेंज, इजंट इट? That is the concept which I have tried to explain. Further I will read more about this and I will let you know in the next class. Fine, this is a very good question which you have asked. So I hope partly I have given you answer, but more specific answer I will give you in Friday's class. Okay, then Ram has given the answer as D, okay, and Jitesh has given the answer as B. So what about other people? One answer is B, one answer is D. Why two different answers? No problem, but this question you will be able to give me correct answer if you have attended the class very, very attentively. So other people, Sweta, please give me the answer. Sweta, Kiran and all other people, please give me the answer. I know that the class went a bit lengthy today, but we will wind up it in next 2 to 3 minutes, so no problem, you can just bear me for another 2 to 3 minutes. Kiran has given the answer 1D. Okay, Kiran has given the answer as D. Fine. So Ram has told us, sir, but for preparing the next year budget we should have to keep in mind of the current year's fiscal deficit. Yes, that is correct, Ram, that is very, very correct. In order to prepare the next year's budget, the fiscal deficit of current years needs to be taken into account. Fine. What I am telling you, to keep things very simple, that fiscal deficit is not related to the aid which we are giving to any foreign country. Fine, that is what I am telling. So now I will tell you the answer because we are running out of time. The people who have given D as the answer, they are correct. Jitesh, why did you give B and B as the answer? Why do you think that 2 is correct? 2 is not correct. Okay, India is opposed to intervention. No, India is not opposed to intervention if a country requests. India is only opposed to interference. So this is not correct. Only this is correct. Therefore 2 is not correct, and this is not correct. Why? People's Republic of China. This is incorrect. It will be Tibet. Fine. Therefore only 3 is the correct answer. Come to the next question. Consider the following statements regarding BIMSTEC. It was formed originally in 1997 with Bangladesh, India, Sri Lanka and Myanmar. It currently includes 5 countries from South Asia and 2 from ASEAN. The third is it was formed to act as a bridge between ASEAN and SAARC. So these are the 3 statements. Tell me what is the correct statement. And in the meanwhile, I have an announcement for you that this week will be the last week of our these classes. I will pause it, and once my interview is over, I will be resuming the classes. Fine. So Friday will be the last class, I think, of this Rajya Sabha TV, the big picture debate analysis. Fine. And we will be again meeting on Saturday and Sunday. Saturday and Sunday we will be having the second ARC report on e-governance. Fine. So again we will be having a very good session on second ARC report on e-governance on coming Saturday and Sunday. And after this I will take a break to prepare for my interview, and we will meet again after my interview on 28th of July. Fine. So this was a small announcement which I wanted to make. Okay. Then Ram says that, sir, but we will have to make arrangement for other countries from the profits arised thereof. Okay. Yes. So okay, this regarding this debate, I will clarify regarding this more, Ram, in my next class. Whenever we meet, we will be discussing about this. I will keep this in mind as I give answer to Sweta's problem in this class. I will give answer to your problem in the next class. Don't worry. Fine. So Ram has given the answer as B. Okay, fine. So what about other people? What about Kiran? Jitesh has told the answer as B. Okay, Jitesh, noted. Fine. So okay, fine. So I think I must wind up now. I will there are not many people who are live. So basically Ram and Jitesh, both of you are correct. This is the correct answer. Here it will be Thailand. Fine. That is BIST. Remember the keyword BIST. B-I-S-T. Okay. Bangladesh, India, Sri Lanka and Thailand, not Myanmar. Okay, this is incorrect. 2 and 3 are correct. Okay. So 2 and 3 are correct. So that was all for today's class, and this is the mains based question. The contours of India's foreign policy needs to be redesigned and redefined to address the dynamism involved in balance of power. Analyze. Don't forget to give example when you analyze. And our today's class would be sufficient to give a very good answer for this question. Fine. So this was all in our today's class. Okay, Kiran has given answer as A, but Kiran, this is not correct. B is the correct answer, Kiran. Fine. Kiran, B is the correct answer, not A. Fine. So with this, we will be winding up our today's class. So meet you again in Friday's class. Fine. And Friday's class will be very short. And then Saturday and Sunday, we will be having our second ARC. Sir, will you continue you teaching if you clear interview? Let's see, Jitesh. That time will tell. Fine. I'll try to, at least I have thought at least that the people who are, already associated with me, even when I get a rank, or if I go to the Lavasna, I will be keeping in touch with my learners community. I will make a separate channel or something like that I don't know, but I will be in touch with all of you. You all can be rest assured. Fine. In any any circumstance. Fine. That is my assurance to all of you. Fine. So till then, goodbye, take care and stay safe. See you all again in Friday's class. Fine.